We're on. A minute.
Almost there. It's 7 o'clock, we'll call to order. You should join me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go to roll call.
Councilmember Kay?
Here.
Councilmember Stroman? Excused. Councilmember Engel? Excused. Mayor Pro Tem Walker? Here. Mayor Hagan?
Here. We'll go on to consent calendar. We have 2 items here. Anything you want to be pulled?
No, sir.
Anything you want to pull?
No.
We'll go ahead and bring those 2 together. All in favor?
No.
Motion.
Or sorry,
Make-
motion, sorry.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And all opposed, say nay. Okay. We'll go on to staff communications.
All right, we'll start on that side of the table if there's any updates.
We have the Treasurer's Report for January. Good evening, everyone. Excuse me, Mayor and council members. We have the Treasury Report for January. Nothing exciting, which is the way we like it. We are continuing on with the audit and all the paperwork that's required for that. We just finished payroll, and so we're clicking along with all the things that are due, including some state reports, and everything's going great. Do you have any questions about the Treasurer's Report that was provided?
Not at this point.
No, I went through it pretty closely and don't have anything.
Councilmember Walker?
No, I just want to comment that I do appreciate all the visual aids in this month's treasurer report. So if you're a member of the community and you haven't seen what it looks like, you can see all of the updates and the graphs that are included. It's really easy to read and where our city has been going in the last, looks like since 2021. So in the last 4 years, just take a look at that. I do really very much appreciate those for our community.
Yeah, Slenda, you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. That's all I have for tonight's meeting.
Chief?
We hired our full-time officer today. We were just sworn in this morning and did his first day today. He was busy filling out paperwork and all that stuff. We anticipate doing the formal swearing in at the next council meeting. We weren't sure if he was going to be able to get his uniforms and everything by today, but he was able to do so. But we'll still plan that for the next one. Officer Geck has completed his motor school, so he is now fully certified to ride the motorcycle. So he should be out on that a little bit more. He laid it down a couple of times at the training, so got a little bit of repairs we got to get done to it to get it back into shape, but he passed, and that's all that matters.
Like a Chips movie, like a Chips commercial? Or a movie, or TV show, sorry?
Yeah. And then Officer Hamaus, Officer Sean, to a lot of you, he just completed his FTO school, and so he is the newest field training officer for the Escalon Police Department. And he'll be he'll be participating in the training for Officer Gunter, who is our new officer that started today. For February or January, Officer Palomino led the department in arrests with 16, and he also led the department in citations with 33.
Any questions for Chief on either side here?
No, at this moment.
Keep up the good work. I hear nothing but good things, so.
Not
Public
me,
work.
it's my guys. They're the ones doing all the work.
Appreciate the modesty. Public Works?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. A couple updates. Last week, we had our maintenance worker 1-2 position close. I'm in the process this week going through applications, and we'll be making phone calls and interviews, hopefully here in the next week. Looks like we have around 20 to 25 applicants, which was nice to choose from. It wasn't the, 3 or 4, so that's promising and
Good stuff,
exciting.
yeah.
The dense sidewalk project's actually going pretty smooth. We did have a couple of rain days last week, but we had kind of planned for that earlier in the week, so we're definitely still on par, on schedule. Everybody will kind of notice we're kind of taking advantage of school being out this week, and we're really tearing up Mitchell, getting on it on both sides, and trying to. I really think by end of week we'll have at least 75% of Mitchell completed. So things are going fairly good on for the sidewalk project.
How's the rec or community center coming with getting ready for?
Yeah, the community center is coming really well, or the Hogan Park, the baseball field. Yeah, everything. We're waiting on a few more items to come in that we're expecting, but as far as play surface, they have practice out there last week after the big rain, and biggest thing I heard was that the field was still firm, a little muddy, but it wasn't super soft, which is good. So it seems to be holding up with a little bit of work that the guys were able to do prior to practice.
Are we getting decent feedback from the people where we're putting the sidewalks in?
Yeah, there's obviously some questions and some concerns. I had a question today of one lady saw forming going up all around her and was wondering why not her, but it was simply because the curb and gutter's actually getting taken out, which made her more excited because she was getting a little bit more. So I wouldn't say anything negative, but just definitely some questions answered here and there. It's going pretty smooth, I would say.
That's good.
Yeah. That's all Public Works has for this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Same thing. Keep up the good work. City manager, you had some updates for us?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Wanted to provide an update. The council last year sometime directed staff to explore options more locally with Escalon Youth Center and with the Escalon Library for a potential asset forfeiture grant through the San Joaquin County District Attorney's Office. We've been working with both of those parties. We've recently received proposals. Staff will be evaluating those internally. And then we will hopefully apply for the asset forfeiture grant and be successful in securing those funds. Both proposals seem to meet the criteria, but we're evaluating those. So just wanted to provide an update on something that has kind of lingered a little bit there.
Who are the two?
Escalon Youth Center and the Escalon Library.
Escalon Library, okay.
And then we do have a third pot of money for, and I just forgot the name. Healthy Room Project.
Right.
So where we, with police, go in and upgrade a room for a youth in the community.
Last time it went real well.
Yeah, went very well. Just again, we do have a planned community workshop on the Murphy Ranch project slated for prior to the next council meeting at 6 o'clock. That will be a joint planning commission and city council workshop. Really, the intent is to allow the public to provide input into maybe questions to the two reviewing bodies prior to the reviewing process. So this will be that opportunity on the 3rd at 6 p.m. here. And then, excuse me, we plan to bring forward a strategic plan for the 25-26 calendar years to council on the 3rd as well for council's consideration. And then wanted to provide an update on the two major infrastructure projects that the city is currently working on. The first being the surface water project. We do have. Go to slide, yeah. So we committed to providing periodic updates as we like to do on these types of major projects. We're probably a little behind in our goal there, but have been working on both of these. For the surface water project, as you will know, the city submitted up to a $3 million grant. We applied for $3 million. We don't know if we'll be successful in getting any grant or the $3 million through the federal program. Last time I mentioned this, I indicated that the Trump administration is maybe holding back some of these as they review just review the monies that are going out. We are hearing now that this grant likely will not be delayed, and so we will hear end of this month sometime, we think, on if we were successful or not. In essence, the council directed staff kind of pencils down until such time as we hear about the grant. I assume if we do not get the grant, we will look for other funding sources. If we do, we will have narrowed the gap between available funding and total project costs relatively significantly, depending on the size of award. We'll come back before council and seek further direction on how to proceed. So again, end of February, we should learn. Just to set expectations, prior to submitting, we expected about a 40% chance of being successful, just based on the number of applications and our specific project. So we will see how that goes. Just to reset the dollars, it's about a $14 million project. We have approximately collected a little over $7 million on the way to $10 million per the rate study, the recent rate study. We've collected $1.8 million in water sales to the city of Tracy, and we have secured, although not received, a $1.1 million community project fund from Congressman Harder's office. So we are north of 10 million on a $14 million project. If we were to receive a good portion of the grant that we requested, we'd be very, very close to a fully funded project. So we will continue to share the progress on that. Just a little bit on what I'll call the project justification. Groundwater quality and quantity is increasingly a challenge. The state is implementing more and more requirements, stricter criteria on the use of groundwater, both in terms of quality and quantity. And so at some point, it's going to be cost prohibitive and very difficult to pull water from the ground unless we get significant amount of rain. But even with that, state requirements on the quality are just too difficult. Wells are costing more and more now. Our newest well is going to be about a $3 million well. We have 4 wells total that we rely on, really 3 right now, until the 4th one comes online. And 2 of those are nearing their life expectancy. So again, there's challenges with groundwater.
A quick question. When you say nearing life expectancy, I know you can't give guarantees, but what are we talking approximately? A couple years?
I mean, it depends with the usage we get, but I mean, I think 5 to 10's 10 is going to be an extremely high number, but 5 is going to be your average number on the life expectancy of the wells.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sort of, like a car. Cars last a certain amount of time. You don't know when it's going to hit, but as you get closer to that number, either mileage or years, you start to get a little worried. And wells can sometimes just sort of go like that, or slow progression of issues. So as we get closer to, kind of the life expectancy number, 25 years, I think is the number.
Exactly.
You get a little more nervous. More and more people, cities are trying to diversify their water source, not just rely on one source. And so having a diversified water sources would be very beneficial to the city. And so we have received $1.1 million or secured it through Congressman Harder's office. So, these are some of the reasons that before this council and before this management team, by and large, the city was exploring this option. Any questions on the surface water project? Any more questions?
Any questions?
No, I'm okay.
Questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Sorry, couldn't hear you.
Sorry, no, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Any questions out from the audience for our staff? Anyone online?
None online.
Okay. All righty then, we'll,
And then the wastewater treatment plant project, the larger of the projects, currently around a $40 million project. We have heard from the council and the community that we should try everything we can to not have it, be $40 million. I think that makes a lot of sense. There are very few ratepayers to spread that cost against. And so while humorous, staff has spent a considerable amount of time trying to devise ways to kind of remedy that situation. The plan upgrade is what the plan upgrade is. There's different things we can do, but again, state requirements are increasing the cost of not only technology, but the extent of the technology needed at these plants. And so staff has looked at ways to minimize the impact to the ratepayers. Our first task was to really improve our compliance with the state. That is what has really gotten us into the cease and desist order and the notice of violation. We've made some strong headway in the last couple of years and are improving compliance. That buys the city a little bit of time, so to speak. There's not as much pressure on the notice of violation and the cease and desist order because we are proving, the underlying issues that caused or led to those issues. So kudos to the Public Works team and our consultant, really dialing that in and getting in a better place with the state. As I mentioned, that buys us time. Staff is considering, although don't know if it's feasible yet, in phasing the project. So if it is a $40 million project, to phase that over time, 3-4 phases, so that the impact of $40 million is not felt to the ratepayers at once, but spread out over time. Now, again, we are exploring that option. We don't know if it's feasible. We're working with our consultant, Blackwater, to identify phasing scenarios. Many things going on with that. Compliance with the state, industry, who are significant partners in this plant, and then just the timing of the season and operations of the plant all affect how we and if we are able to phase this overall project. So that is what we are exploring now. There's some I don't want to say behind the scenes, but discussions internally about whether this will all work. And so that's what we've been doing over the last several months. We're getting closer. We think we probably need some sort of support to help us navigate this in a more expeditious manner. The council, the public, doesn't want to continue to not invest in our wastewater treatment plant when it is a plant that has some deficiencies. It really does. It's an older plant. It has some deficiencies. Things are not going to last forever. And so we think if we get some sort of project manager and not spend a ton of money, but help us navigate all these moving parts and these issues, it'll actually expedite the process and, in the long run could actually save money because inflation is increasing so much. Again, that is another option that we are exploring to help staff, the consultant, help coordinate with state and industry, help all these moving pieces kind of come together. So that is what we are doing right now. Not too much visible, but we're kind of working on the foundation of this plan. So again, be happy to answer any questions you have on that specific item.
any questions?
Have you been able to get into contact with the individual that you were considering for that management position?
We have a meeting with one individual that was recommended to us this week, and we have received actually today a proposal from a consulting firm, Ardura, who is also working with us, but it's another individual. So we are exploring that proposal, and then we will meet with the other individual this week.
Awesome.
Any questions?
On this specific, so questions on this one?
Sure, yeah.
I know that you have a slide following this one, so I kind of have a question on that slide.
Okay, yeah, we can get
There.
into that.
Yeah, when we get there, so. Oh, and then as for grants, do we have grants that we have applied for this particular project? State or federal or otherwise?
Not for the wastewater treatment plant yet.
Okay.
As you know, late 2010s, 2018, 2019, Pace did a study. It was largely conceptual. It didn't, look at fine detail. Blackwater has come on to do a validation report and then get into the design. So we haven't even firmed up exactly what the project is at this point. Blackwater is also exploring kind of pilot projects. What we are also doing with industry is figuring out what can be done on their side, let's call it of the plant, to reduce costs and, have them do more things sort of in-house. Really what happens is the water is no issue. We have plenty of capacity for water. What gets sent to us is bad things in the water, organics that are in the water that we have to deal with. And that is where the challenges come from. That's where primarily our notice of violation and cease and desist order came from. And so if there are things that industry can do on their side and save both parties money, because they are participative, or there should be in the plant upgrades, then that would be beneficial, we think, for both sides. And so there's a little navigation going on with that. We, in late last year, implemented a pilot study. Doesn't look like that technology is going to work for our needs, but we're exploring those types of things.
So we're talking about the solids, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then when was the last time, when were these rates set? Do you know what year these rates were set?
Well, if we go to the next slide, we don't have firm data or information on when they were set. We do know they were set several years ago and have not been adjusted since then.
Okay.
But I couldn't tell you if it was 5 or 10, but somewhere in that range.
While we're on the slide, I believe you told me that industry accounts for about 50% when they're in season, right?
In the season, that's more 90% in the season for sure, yeah.
So throughout the year, is 50% more of an active?
Yeah, it's between 30 and 50. It's very minimal in the off season.
Okay.
Because we don't get much from them and we get some of our rainwater there and the rest goes down to SSGID.
Okay.
So the slide in front of us, as requested by Mayor Pro Tem Walker at a prior meeting, what rates really does the industry play and pay towards the treatment plant? And so you can see the breakdown in the chart. These are not labeled, but I can tell you that Premier Brands is on top and Eckert is on bottom there. So you can see there's a base fee. There is a fee for kind of the things that they send. The flow is just the water, BOD and SS are some of the organics, the solids, the not such good things that are sent our way. And then each pay a portion of debt service for the plant. So all told, last year, they paid $1.6 million. About $400,000 for Eckert, $1.2 million for Premier Brands. And just if you look at the overall budget, it costs about $3.8 million to operate the plant each year. So I'm sure some of the math is, what's that proportional share? It's a little challenging. There's many different things, flow, number of solids, amount of space, the types of things that come in, the different technologies, and I don't know, not materials, but like oxygen and other things that are used. So it'd be hard to define an exact split of, industry versus domestic side in terms of what it takes to operate. But staff will continue to look at this discharge permit, these discharge permits, and our overall operations to fine tune, to see if there is an adjustment necessary in these rates.
Purely on inflation and inflationary rates, I would guess that they would at least need to keep up with those and the rates that we are paying for the additional workers, at the very least, that we're going to have on site for the, sometimes 50% more than consumers, I guess, or 90% during high season. We obviously are paying for more workers and they're getting more higher rates, and those since these rates have gone in. So a reevaluation of fees might be appropriate.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
Not on this one.
Yeah, I would agree with what Pro Tem says on that. Any questions from the audience for staff in regards to this stuff? And anyone online? No? Okay.
So I just have something with surface water now. That are we in just discussion of both of these?
Sure.
At this point? Okay, so I was gonna save this for communications, but I just wanted to share that we had the opportunity to attend the League of California Cities Council and Manager Academy last month. And this is for the community, online, I guess. And so we were able to, we had that opportunity to attend, and I just wanted to report that it was extremely valuable, both the education opportunities as well as the networking with neighbor councils. It is the consensus of California cities, League of California cities, and valley cities, small valley cities, that it is, right now, time is of the essence to find a connection to surface water. It's all of the valley cities on the valley floor that are pulling from wells are all struggling with how they're going to connect with some sort of water source, and that we do have, some people say this is dire, the 50 years, about 50 years until we are really, really struggling with not being able to pull water anymore. And a lot of cities, when talking to some of our allies and other council members, they feel that we're lucky because we actually have a way to connect to surface water. Now, when we're looking at how much this costs, when we first ran numbers when I first saw it was probably in 2018, 2019, I started paying attention to how much it would cost. It's now triple, because of all of the construction costs and inflation and all of the interest rates and those things that have changed. So I just wanted to share that it was great to connect with these allies, know that there's friends here in the valley, but know that we're in a pretty good spot in that we have a way to connect. It's not just like Escalon's going away if we can't, but there are many valley cities that feel like if they cannot find a way to connect to surface water, it might be the end of the city and the ability for people to live in those cities. So I just wanted to share that going forward. I don't want to put like a dire, we have to, but we are lucky to do this. And as the rates continue to go up, time is of the essence, and we may need to look to connect sooner than later. So that's my opinion, and I just wanted to share that, I was able to gain friends and allies, and there are other ideas of how to go forward in that. So that's it.
Good.
Anything else want to add? Okay, well, I guess we'll close this and go to matters presented from the audience. The public may address the city council on any item that is on the agenda at the time the item is called. The public may also address the city council on any item on the agenda that is within the subject matter of the city of Escalon. Each speaker is limited to a maximum of 5 minutes. Unused time may not be yielded to another speaker. You may state your name and address for the record, however, it's not required. Due to the state law, action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda, and except for brief responses, the council is prohibited from discussing any item on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and/or placed on a future agenda. The determination of whether an item is within the spectrum, within the subject matter of the city is a discretionary decision made by the mayor. At this time, any matters from the audience? No? Okay. Any online? Okay, well, that's the fastest one I've ever seen. So we'll go on to administrative matters. Start with number 4.
Thank you, Mayor. The item before you is to consider Planning Commission applicant interviews. Per the city's process, when we receive more applicants than the number of positions vacant, we go through, or the council considers, an interview process. We were recently, relatively recently, learned that Commissioner Sarkozy has stepped down from the Planning Commission because he has moved out of the area. And so we did advertise for the vacancy. This was advertised starting January 14th and closed February 13th, just relatively recently. In that time, the city did receive 4 applicants for that position. And so this first step of the process is to determine you do want interviews and then to set a date for the interviews. They can be on a council meeting or off council meeting. Historically, I think they've primarily been during council meetings.
Okay.
So that is all for the staff report. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you do have questions.
Well, it makes sense that we give every person an opportunity to speak their mind, to see, who's the best candidate, is my opinion. I don't know how you two feel.
I agree.
I also agree.
Anything else before I take it to the audience? Audience? Anyone want to make a statement on this? All right, we'll go to the online. Okay, then I guess, do you need anything besides some direction, or?
Just a matter of setting a date.
Okay.
I would think that our March 3rd meeting is probably not a good idea. What about the following?
Yeah, I'm game. I think that's
17th?
fine. Would that work for you? Yeah. Okay. I think we'll shoot for that second meeting then.
Okay.
We'll go on to number 5 in the administrative matters.
Okay. Turn it over to Chief.
So there is a grant through the Cannabis Tax Fund grant program that provides funding for DUI suppression. We have breathalyzers. We don't have anything currently to test for drugs in the field. There is a device made by Satoxa, which is a salivary preliminary drug test. So it can test for THC, cocaine, barbiturates, methamphetamine. So if we suspect a driver to be impaired under the use of narcotics, we can use these devices to test for that. They are expensive, about $5,000 a piece. Through the grant, we can get them potentially fully paid for. So what I'm requesting is to apply for a grant to pay for 3 of the devices for a total of $18,195.51.
I just had one question on that. Is this something that can tell if they're actively, cognitively impaired by that drug? Or is it something that says they've done it in the last month, or, you know what I'm saying?
So my understanding, it tests the saliva, so it's recent use. So it would only test for recent use. It wouldn't test for long-term use. I don't know the full mechanism of action. There is no current baseline so with alcohol, it's 0.08. If you're over a 0.08, you are legally impaired under alcohol. There are no baselines set for drug impairment. So what this would do is the officers would still do their FSTs and they would determine if they were impaired based on their performance on their field sobriety exercises. If they feel they're impaired and they're not detecting any odor of alcohol, they could use this device to see what, if any, drugs they've recently taken. And that would help to lead them in the direction of what's the appropriate charge. There is various charges. There's a charge for alcohol, a charge for drugs, and a charge for both alcohol and drugs.
So fair to say it would help clear up any kind of ambiguity there if someone happened to just be really bad with their balance.
Exactly.
Okay.
And it's like, okay, maybe you have an inner ear problem and you're just unbalanced, or maybe you've taken a little bit too much prescription medication and you've got a lot of opiates in your system. This would test for that.
Gotcha. That's all I had.
Any special training for the use of it?
The training will be administered if we do get them. The company, Setoxa, will provide training on the devices.
It's not like our speed detectors where they're having to be certified or anything like that. They get a lesson in it, they can use it, and
They're good to go. And
start issuing DWIs.
well, we do. This will just help us better detect them. So the annual upkeep would be approximately $685 per year. That would be for the cartridges. The devices themselves are, like I said, extremely expensive, kind of prohibitively expensive for Escalon. The upkeep, about $1,000 a year for replacement cartridges, I think is doable and within the budget.
Any other questions up here? Okay, take it to the audience. Any questions? Any questions online? All right, then I'll humor a motion.
Sure, I'll make a motion to authorize the police department to submit an application to the Cannabis Tax Fund Grant Program for the purchase of 3 Setoxa roadside drug screening devices.
Second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. All right. So, looks like we're to communications, council communications at this point. So, Councilman Kay, would you like to go first?
Yes. A little disappointed in our turnout tonight. Mr. Attorney, I'm going to be asking you some questions in the place of Frank, if that's okay.
I'll do my best.
We had our meeting 2 weeks ago, had some interesting conversations about our LMDs and LLDs. So just to give you a little bit of background on it, we kind of blew through that as a council without really discussing our feelings on it much as far as how we had come to the conclusion as to the motion that we made and ultimately approved to move forward. So we receive an annual engineer's report each year. Does that annual engineer's report, does it change anything about the charter documents of an LMD? Or do all the charter documents still stay the same?
I believe they all stay the same.
So that's just verbiage that's put in there to guide city staff and city council in how those rates should be adjusted on an annual basis.
I believe so, but without getting too much into the details of this, because we don't have it on today's agenda,
Right.
I'll save.
I'm just general questions. It's all that I'm after. If we were to want to add a splash pad into one of the parks in one of these LMD districts, we would need to get those homeowners' approval through a vote to charge them for that property, correct?
I need to look at that or have Frank look at that.
Okay. I can tell you that the answer is yes, because it's something that wasn't originally in those charter documents. Man, you're not being very helpful to me tonight, but that's okay.
If it was on the agenda, I'd have studied better.
It's okay, that's okay. So 50 years from now, you got lampposts in a LMD district that have started rotting out at the bottoms and they all need to be replaced. The city staff can figure out what that's going to cost, and the engineer's report would give us a number and say, hey, this is what it's going to cost for you guys to replace these, and this is how much we say that you should increase their rate to cover that cost to replace those, correct?
generally the mechanism.
Right. And then, basically the reason that I used the idea of a lamppost is because really it was kind of stucco walls and wood fencing that had become the major issues as they were line itemed in an engineer's report that they weren't previously 4 or 5 years prior. When a LMD district is brand new and it lists all those things, lights, walls, fences, all of that kind of stuff, you're not necessarily going to be charging for a stucco wall that isn't going to fail for 50 years, right? You'll add those in as those things go bad, like the lamppost scenario that I gave you, right?
Couldn't tell you sitting.
Well, that being said, those items are what was added to the engineer's report, and they were line itemed and added to it, and that didn't change anything about the charter documents of the LMD district. When I came into that meeting, I was already well versed in this and didn't go through any of these questions with Frank because I didn't really see a necessity for myself. But in hindsight, which is always 20/20, I look back and realize that the public really would have benefited from me asking these questions just to kind of line out, this is how these things work. So the rate adjustment that had been made prior to me being a council member last year in May, that's a standard thing. It was approved with bells and whistles and everybody was happy with it. However, those line items that had been added to it, they were added to it just as the age, things change, things need to be added. But those items were not added to the charter documents. They already existed in the charter documents. And I really wish that I had realized that the public would have benefited from me asking, those questions in front of everyone so that they could kind of, get the full scope of the way that we were looking at it and making our decision. I won't harass you with any more questions. I knew the answers to most of these, as you can tell. The member of the city that brought the agenda item to us, I met with him, spent about an hour and a half with him going over all of his concerns, and looked into it and, with very, genuine, curiosity, of course, because, number one, though, what he was bringing to me, definitely seemed like it was a problem. Then after doing so, I went and I did my research not only on LMDs, but LLDs and all of that kind of stuff. And then I actually spoke with our city manager and asked him a few very specific questions about rates and fees and what was in the reserve fund and how much we were allowed to have and all of that. Don't really need to get into any of that, but I had more than done my homework prior to that meeting. Reason I bring this all up, actually, I'm really disappointed that our other two members aren't here with us tonight. Had Mr. Councilman Engel been here, I really had every intention of asking him if I had spoke to him prior to that February 3rd meeting. And we had one phone conversation, and it happened to be on January 28th, the same day that I met with Mr. Danziger. And I told him that I had met with Mr. Danziger and told him that it was actually a very pleasant conversation that I had with him. I enjoyed the time that I spent with him, to be honest. I said, but I'm not going to get into anything else because I'm kind of concerned that there may be kind of a hub and spoke Brown Act violation here. So we're not going to discuss that whatsoever. And left it right there. Sean's not here for me to ask, so Melinda, I'm going to ask you, prior to that February 3rd meeting, did I speak with you about the LMD?
No, I haven't spoken with you.
Outside of here in the parade and when I saw you at the restaurant the other day, right?
Right.
Came over and said hi.
Yeah.
Did you speak with Mr. Danziger
Yeah.
prior to that meeting?
Yes, I have.
Okay, yeah, about the LMD.
So I've spoken with him. He asked if I would support putting an agenda item on the agenda, and I told him yes. And I'll just back this up. Anybody that asks me to put anything as an agenda item, I say yes, even if I don't back it up myself, because I prefer that the five of us discuss something and not go towards whether I believe it or not.
Absolutely.
It's one of those
He didn't get into any of those specific details with you like you did me.
Not at all.
Stack
He said, I have
of
an
paperwork.
agenda
Like
item,
that.
would you support it? And I said, hey, bring it to council and I'll support putting it up so that we can all discuss it out in the open.
Perfect. I sure appreciate you answering that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, me and you had lunch on December 28th, and aside from that, prior to February 3rd. I don't think that we had spoke outside of this chambers and next door, correct?
Correct. Had that breakfast with you and just to onboard and say hi and meet you. Outside of that, though, we talked about no business.
And we had no idea that this agenda item was coming up either. So the reason that I ask these questions is that, you know, not only, the social media is a wonderful thing, and it's also a horrendous thing, especially when somebody decides they're going to get on there and be dishonest about what it is that has transpired. And I was a little perturbed. I'm not going to get involved in petulant social media posts because somebody didn't get their way. However, when somebody accuses me of colluding with other council members behind closed doors to make a decision before I walk into this chamber, I am going to absolutely make sure that I bring that up in public and make it very clear there was absolutely no possibility that that could have happened. And I even was concerned, given that Mr. Danziger was bringing this to all of us, I was concerned that if he was bringing all of these details to each one of us, when he goes beyond 2, that still can be a Brown Act violation, to my understanding, even though he's a resident. So I made sure I didn't speak to any other council member about it prior to. I hate that we have to go back and revisit stuff like this and waste everybody's time, but the reality is that I think that it's very important for our city to know there's absolutely no collusion going on behind the scenes between myself and any other council member, and I'm sure that the Mayor Pro Tem would concur and say the same thing. And I just want to be absolutely clear that I think that the 4 members that are up here with me are upstanding individuals, and I would like to consider that I myself as one as well. And the last thing that I want is for anyone to be accusing us of colluding together, or the city of adding arbitrary fees that they aren't allowed to add in breaking the law. And that's the reality, is that in this social media post on one of our local pages, it was accusations of several laws being broken that definitely were not. And I just wanted to clear the air on that for everyone. Aside from that, about the only other communications that I had was Officer Palomino. Man, that guy. Seems like we're talking about him every meeting. He's doing a phenomenal job, and I hope he keeps it up. And I'd like to welcome our new Officer Gunter to the town, and hopefully we can meet in person soon, and I can shake his hand and thank him for his service.
Well, like I said, I'll plan on having a formal swearing in on next council meeting.
Fantastic. And that's all.
All right, thank you. Pro Tem?
Yeah, I didn't have anything, but I'll go ahead and say a thing or two, just as we're having this discussion. First of all, sidewalks are looking fantastic.
Thank you.
Love it. It's looking great out there. And, yeah, going around Mitchell on pick up and drop off has been a little rough, so thanks for getting that done while kids are out of school. So, but it looks good. I think it has improved the look of the streets and the safety for everybody. So appreciate your guys' great work. I left this for communications, but I said it earlier, we had that opportunity to go to the, let's see, I wrote down so I wouldn't lose it. League of California City Council and Manager Academy last month. And I'm mentioning it because Mr. Legal Counsel said we should mention it up here. So that's for everybody to know that we had that opportunity. So make sure that Frank knows that I said that out loud. And so, yeah, it was valuable in both the education opportunities as well as the networking with neighboring councils. This is my 2 cents, but it was great to connect with our many allies who are also struggling to feel heard and supported by the state of California to help develop according to our unique characteristics and economic needs, and not just the state's blanket agenda. So that is a overarching feeling of many cities in California. We're trying to develop in a certain way, and California has their own agenda that they're pushing, but we have many, many friends, many, many allies, and many examples of what else we can do as other cities are also trying to enhance their cities in their unique ways, and not just what California wants for everybody. So just wanted to share that with everybody. And I'm not on social media very much. I have learned not to be on social media very much. If you tag me in a post on residents, I'll usually see it because the little thing will pop up, and that's the only time I'll see anything on residents because I have learned not to do the thing. So I don't very often. If you're sending me messages on Facebook, it probably will take me a week or 2 or 3 to even get them. So I'm not ignoring you. I'm just not on social media. So, and I've learned that most of the positives don't get back to you. It's usually the negatives, and that's what you see on there. So if you want to contact me, go ahead and contact me through email or phone. I'm very easy to find. Please text me anytime. So that's it for, do we have a meeting? Yeah, we have a meeting before opening day. So that's all. So take care of your fields. That's it.
Okay, well, I'll finish it off, I guess. I'm the same way. I try to avoid social media too because it's toxic as much as I can. Although I do get on Twitter once in a while to kind of get the news. On a more serious note, a couple things. Mr. Danziger was asking for this kind of stuff last meeting, so we might want to make sure we get this to him, so he has, or at least make him aware of it. Moving forward, I've got something more serious to talk to you guys about, and I wish there was more people here today, but it has to be said, because I've been here for a couple of years and I've been seeing a lot of this happen. So, and I haven't been in the mayor position, but it's my time to be in the mayor position, and so I feel obligated to say things that need to be said. So this entire council has gone above and beyond, along with the staff, to be as transparent with our community as we can be without violating the law. So I find it intellectually dishonest and unacceptable, really a bald-faced lie to say otherwise without proof. In the political world, it's called projection, and our community is better than that, okay? It's unacceptable. Moving forward, it's important that our community understands we want to engage you in a good faith. So any person, staff, council, citizen, who's intentionally engaging in defamation, slander, projection techniques designed to bully and influence division in our community, especially when there's no evidence of such things. For example, as like corruption and conspiracy, these words are getting thrown around way too loosely. From this point on, they're going to need to be dealt with through the legal system. It's unacceptable behavior. So we're not up here playing games. We're here trying to service our community. We're here genuinely to be the voice of we the people. So it's important to come talk to us about something if you really have something that you think is important. As far as decorum, I've seen some issues with that. I may be responsible for some of that too, learning how to go through meetings as well. But, all people are getting 5 minutes to speak unless it's a presentation. The mayor, which is currently me right now, if they feel you need a little bit more time because you're almost there, then we're going to give it to you. But you need to come prepared to make a statement that's more concise and clear. Remember, we want to solve your problems, so please come up and engage us, in a respectful way. Grandstanding, being condescending, belittling, engaging in bully tactics, come up here willing to have a productive conversation with a clear position, with facts to back up your position. I know some things get emotional, but try your best to be respectful to everyone here. Respect is a two-way street. So citizens as well as council need to stop engaging in emotionally based virtue signaling yelling obscenities from the audience is unacceptable. We're better than that as a community. So, you know, if that stuff happens again, I'm going to politely ask the chief to escort you out. It's not going to happen anymore. Lastly, our staff and council is getting, or not staff, sorry. Our council is getting paid like $275 a month to help we the people and help make important decisions for our community. So, you know, to think we're up here trying to do things that hurt our community is just, I don't even know how to respond to that. It simply, you know, it simply shows me that you need to dig a little deeper and look a little bit deeper before making a comment. Clear, you know, come up here with a clear argument. Your argument, you know, maybe we feel the same way, maybe we don't. But if, you know, if we don't side on your side of things, it doesn't mean that there's some collusion or something like that happening. You know, maybe your argument doesn't rise to the level high enough to change precedent, or maybe it didn't fulfill the basic process needs to make a sound decision. You know, before you go accusing people of stuff, it's important to at least do your due diligence. So moving forward, I would really respect those that do come up here and try to engage us in a, you know, respectful manner so we can be respectful back to you. Other than that, that's all I have for tonight. Thank you.
You gonna smack that gavel?
Yeah, sorry.
Great audience tonight, ladies. Yeah, a great audience.
What did I miss? I missed 2 weeks. What did I miss?